What if I told you that some of the most disturbing encounters don't happen on crowded streets or in dark forests, but in places most people believe are long forgotten? Tonight, we'll uncover 3 chilling true horror stories that happened in abandoned locations, places where silence hides sinister secrets. Stay with me because what you're about to hear may leave you questioning what truly lingers in the shadows. And now, let's step into the first one. The town lay shrouded in a heavy fog, the kind that clung to the ground like an invisible hand gripping at the throat of every passerby. It was late autumn, and the trees stood bare, skeletal against the gray sky. Eleanor could barely remember the last time she had ventured out in this weather, but something had compelled her. Curiosity, perhaps, or an unshakable sense of dread, spiraling within her mind like the mist outside. She walked slowly, the wet pavement glistening under the flickering streetlights that struggled to remain lit against the enveloping gloom. The chill cut through her coat, sending shivers down her spine. Eleanor glanced around, the quiet weight of the fog wrapping around her like a shroud. No sound but the distant echo of her own footsteps kept her company. As she approached the old playground at the end of the street, memories flooded back, days playing with friends, laughter resonating in the air. But that was before the screams whispered through the night and before the air became thick with fear. The vanished children had become a ghost story of sorts, a dark curiosity that edged into each conversation, but never lingered long, as if no one wanted to acknowledge an evil that had tainted their little town. As Eleanor stepped into the playground, the swing set creaked, unsettling in its silence, swaying as if pushed by unseen hands. The air felt charged with something other, the remnants of joy now twisted into shadows lurking just out of sight. She approached cautiously, the mist curling around her like fingers beckoning her closer. Then she heard it, a faint giggle, light and airy, drifting just beyond reach. Eleanor froze, her heart pounding in her chest. The sound was innocent yet sinister, striking a chord somewhere deep within her. She called out, clearing her throat. "Hello? Is someone there?" The fog seemed to absorb her voice, wrapping it into the ether. Another giggle, slightly louder, echoed back, followed by whispers. The voices were indistinct, a chorus of children's laughter punctuated by pauses that stretched far too long, suspended like the swing above her. She took a hesitant step forward, the grass squelching under her weight, each sound amplified in the still night. Then, in the far corner of the playground, she saw movement. Glimpses of tiny figures flitting between the trees, playful yet eerie, darting just out of her direct line of sight. Pangs of panic rose within her as she instinctively retreated. Torn between fear and curiosity, she shifted closer, trying to discern what lurked just beyond the veil of fog. With a sudden rush, the laughter grew louder, more urgent, spinning around her, tantalizing yet terrifying. Desperately, she yelled again, "Please show yourselves." The fog parted slightly, and in that brief glimpse, she saw them. Shapes of children, a girl with long tangled hair and a boy clutching a worn teddy bear, both smiling wide. Their smiles were too wide, stretching as if carved from the darkness itself. Then all at once, their faces twisted into something grotesque. The laughter turned sharp and chaotic, swirling around her. Eleanor turned to flee, but as she did, the ground beneath her gave way. She stumbled, barely catching herself. A sudden silence enveloped her, the giggles fading, the air heavy with an inexplicable weight. In that moment, an overwhelming realization settled in. She was not alone in the fog. From behind her, a whisper crept into her ear, that sing-song voice echoing back, now much closer. "Wanna play?" The mist clung tighter, and the children's silhouettes appeared again, reaching out with small, cold hands. Panic surged as she felt their icy grips on her arms, an undeniable invitation far too sinister to refuse. Eleanor broke from the grasp and ran, but the whispering laughter pursued her, echoing in the fog until suddenly it stopped. She risked a glance back, the children gone, yet the fog swirled thicker, more alive. Returning home, she felt relief wash over her as the streetlights flickered back into full illumination, casting away shadows. But as she stepped inside, the familiar comfort of her home was pierced by the sharpness of that laughter, now echoing within the walls. Despair flooded her as she realized with every breath that the children had followed her. Each giggle now a promise, each footstep a reminder that in their game of hide and seek, she might never truly be found. Our journey continues. The next abandoned place might look like nothing more than a relic of the past, but what happened inside will send shivers down your spine. Let's step in. It was a fog-drenched evening when Eliza stumbled upon the old church. The weathered stone facade loomed like a specter in the mist, its bell tower reaching toward the sky as if to grasp the swirling vapor above. Across the brittle grass, she felt an inexplicable pull, the kind of pull one feels toward a secret long buried. The village had whispered tales about the place, prayers left unanswered, shadows that moved against the light. Local children dared each other to approach, but no one ever entered. With a glance back at the winding path she had taken, Eliza stepped inside, the heavy door creaking ominously as it swung wide. The air inside was stale, thick with the scent of dust and decay. Broken pews lay scattered about, some overturned, others seemingly left in hasty abandon. Sunlight peeked through the stained glass windows, casting fragmented colors on the floor, but the effect was disconcerting, as if the light itself were struggling to enter. As she moved deeper into the church, there was an unsettling silence that wrapped around her, rendering the world outside an afterthought. The whispers of her village friends echoed in her mind, warnings of the strange happenings that surrounded this place. Some spoke of figures seen in the corners of vision, always just out of focus, while others recalled the chilling sound of children laughing, only to turn and find no one there. Eliza dismissed the thoughts, laughing nervously to herself, her footsteps the only sound breaking the profound quiet. Just as she reached the altar, she noticed a journal resting atop it, worn and dusty. She picked it up, turning the fragile pages, revealing entries written in an erratic scrawl. They spoke of visions, dreadful nightmares that intruded on waking hours, of an entity that demanded attention, a figure that emerged from the shadows. The last entry was frantic and incoherent, hinting at a mounting dread, a warning to never look behind. A chill raced down her spine. She felt an unshakable compulsion to glance back. Slowly, with the weight of foreboding upon her, she turned. There, in the far corner of the church, an unnatural darkness seemed to thicken, pulling at the corners of her vision. A silhouette lurked there, unmoving, just beyond the edges of the feeble light. Panic surged through her. Eliza tore her gaze away and dashed toward the door, heart pounding in her chest. Her fingers fumbled on the ancient handle, dread pooling in her stomach as she felt the heaviness of unseen eyes on her back. Just when the door swung open, a cold voice, almost a whisper, brushed against her ear. "Stay." She bolted into the fog, gasping for air, convinced she could still feel that dark presence at her heels. She ran down the path, the mist coiling around her legs like a serpent. The village lights glimmered in the distance, small beacons of hope. Yet as she sprinted towards them, an agonizing realization settled in her mind. She could still hear laughter, soft, taunting, echoing in the air, and with every step she took, the laughter persisted, blending seamlessly into the whispers of the night. As she reached the edge of the village, Eliza stumbled, tripping over her own feet. She looked back one last time, breathless, heart racing. The church stood stark against the fog, yet it was different now. Something about it was more alive, pulsing with a life of its own. The silhouette remained in the window, no longer a shadow, but a figure, a person, grinning, watching her. The old church doors creaked open slowly, and the laughter crescendoed, intertwining with the fading whispers of her name, beckoning her back. She stood transfixed for a moment, the horror of her flight replaced by a growing curiosity, a need to understand what called her. Was it truly a nightmare, or had she awakened something that would never let her go? The fog cocooned her as she took a hesitant step back toward the darkness, and the laughter enveloped her like a shroud. And now we move to the final story, an abandoned estate where the walls themselves seem to whisper, and the darkness holds a secret you won't soon forget. The fog rolled in thick, cooling around the gnarled trees that lined the path leading to the old Holloway estate. Its once grand design had crumbled into a silhouette of despair over the years, its windows like empty eyes staring blankly into the darkness. Locals spoke in hushed tones of the last family that had lived there, their lives consumed by madness. It was said that those who entered the estate often did not return, or if they did, they were never quite themselves again. Sarah had always been drawn to the eerie allure of the place. On an October evening with the sun setting in a saturated orange sky, she finally resolved to uncover its secrets. Her heart raced as she approached the rotting front door, a shroud of dread wrapping around her like the mist. With a deep breath, she pushed the door open, its creaks echoing like whispers of the past. Inside, the air grew thick with the smell of mildew and decay. Dust motes danced in the dim light, filtering through the grime-covered windows. Sarah's footsteps whispered across the floorboards, which groaned in protest. She moved through the cavernous halls, her fingers trailing along the peeling wallpaper, each flake a reminder of the grandeur that once was. As she explored, she stumbled upon strange symbols etched into the woodwork, reminiscent of ancient runes, casting unsettling shadows. In the corner of the room stood a mirror, its surface fogged and crooked. Drawn to it, Sarah wiped a hand across the glass, revealing her reflection, a pale girl surrounded by darkness. But then something shifted, and she swore she saw another figure behind her, a fleeting glimpse of a woman with hollow eyes staring into her soul. Heart pounding, Sarah spun around, but the room was empty save for the flickering shadows cast by her own anxiety. She glanced back at the mirror, her reflection remained unchanged. Shaking off the encounter as a trick of the light, she ventured deeper into the house, the air growing colder with each step she took. She found herself in a sprawling parlor, the grandeur of its once fine furniture now cloaked in dust. There, on a table, lay a series of journals bound in cracked leather. Curiosity piqued, she carefully opened the first one, its pages yellowed and brittle. The entries detailed the unraveling of the Holloway family, their descent into madness chronicled with chilling precision. Whispers of things lurking behind the walls, voices calling from the shadows beckoning for release, tales of a darkness that fed upon despair. Suddenly the air thickened with an unseen presence, and the temperature dropped, an icy whisper brushing against her neck. "Leave this place," it seemed to chant, echoing off the walls. Sarah's heart raced, there had to be an exit. She dashed back, her pulse a wild drumbeat, but behind her, the shadows morphed and shifted. She burst into the hallway, retracing her steps, but losing her bearings. The house began to warp, the once familiar layout twisting like a labyrinth. Panic washed over her, the walls seemed to close in, sighing like a creature awakening from slumber. The whispers grew louder, chanting incomprehensible words until they merged into a cacophony of despair. In her frenzied flight, she caught sight of the mirror again down a dark corridor, its glass shimmering with an ethereal glow. Against her better judgment, she approached, drawn to its surface. This time, as she peered in, the other figure emerged fully, a gaunt woman, lips moving silently, her eyes wide with terror, pleading for help. But then Sarah saw the truth. The woman was not an apparition. It was her reflection, twisted and aged, her own face mournfully staring back at her, trapped within the glass like a bird in a cage. The whispers surged as realization hit. This was her fate, to be undone. Her mind splintered into shards, a prisoner of her curiosity. As the last vestiges of her sanity slipped away, darkness enveloped her, swallowing all light. In the depths, she could feel the weight of countless souls, lost, forever bound to the estate that had claimed so many. The house sighed, satisfied with its latest acquisition, while the echo of her own voice, now indistinguishable from the whispers, pleaded from within the mirror, begging the next visitor to turn back. But the fog outside continued to roll in, waiting patiently for its next secret. These abandoned places carry memories, echoes, and secrets. Some are better left undisturbed. If these stories unsettled you, just wait until you dive deeper into the vault of horrors. Subscribe and hit the notification bell, because the next descent into darkness is coming soon.